Coco Gauff just joined one of the most exclusive clubs in tennis history, and most people don't even realize what she accomplished.
Coco Gauff, there's the stat that came out of American women in the Open era at Grand Slams. So those of them that played their first 100 matches at majors, Coco Gauff is right up there with a 75% win rate. So she's won at least 75 of her first 100 matches at Slams. Only 4 players above her. Do you want to have a crack at naming them, Joel?
Well, surely the Williams sisters are in there.
Correct.
I wonder if Venus might be above Serena in that stat.
It's very close. I can tell you they're one win apart.
Okay.
It's actually Serena on 86 and Venus on 85.
Oh, okay. Davenport, maybe?
She is on 75.
Okay.
So she won 75% of her first slam matches. Mary Jo Fernandez also on 75. So Coco Gauff, equals them. And Pam Shriver was on 76. But right up at the top was Chris Evert, 90.
Yes.
90 of her first 100 slam matches. She won.
That is goat.
That's arriving, isn't it?
After her first round win at the Australian Open, the stats came out, and her win rate at Grand Slams puts her in company with only 4 other players in the Open era: Chris Evert, the Williams sisters, and now Coco. This is actually insane. Before we break down these numbers, quick question. Do you think Coco Gauff is already on track to become one of the all-time greats? Or is it too early to make that call? Let me know in the comments, because these stats are making people reconsider everything.
Oh, magic!
Coco Gauff just beat Kamila Rakimova 6-2, 6-3 in the first round of the Australian Open. Standard first-round win. Nothing particularly remarkable about the scoreline. Except buried in the post-match analysis was a statistic that puts Coco's entire career trajectory into perspective. Of all American women in the Open era who have played their first 100 matches at Grand Slam tournaments, Coco Gauff has won 75 of them. That's a 75% win rate at majors through her first century of matches. Only 4 players in American tennis history have a better record through the same milestone. Want to guess who they are? Chris Evert sits at the top with 90 wins out of her first 100 Grand Slam matches. That's absurd. That's winning 9 out of every 10 matches at the biggest tournaments in tennis for the first portion of your career. But that's Chris Evert, so it tracks. Below her are Serena Williams with 86 wins and Venus Williams with 85 wins. Then Pam Shriver with 76. And tied at 75 with Coco are Lindsay Davenport and Mary Jo Fernandez. That's the entire list. 7 American women in the Open era who won at least 75% of their first 100 Grand Slam matches. So when people talk about Coco being overhyped or not living up to expectations or whatever criticism gets thrown at young athletes, these numbers provide context. She's literally tracking at the same pace as some of the greatest American players in tennis history. Not similar. Not close. The exact same pace through 100 matches. And here's the part that should terrify the rest of the women's tour. Coco is 20 years old. She reached this milestone faster than almost anyone on that list. She's one of only 4 players aged 21 or younger since 2000 to win 75 or more Grand Slam matches. The other 3? Venus Williams, Serena Williams, and Maria Sharapova. That's the company she's keeping. Those are the names that show up next to hers when you run the historical data. And yet somehow there's still a narrative that Coco hasn't accomplished enough, or isn't dominant enough, or needs to prove something more. Talk about what actually happened in her first round match, because while the final score looks comfortable, the match itself was messier than the numbers suggest. Coco struggled early, particularly with her serve. She had 6 double faults in the first set, and her second serve win percentage was a dismal 27%. 5 of the first 7 games went to deuce, meaning she was grinding out points rather than cruising. But here's what separates good players from great ones. Coco won 3 of those 5 deuce games. When things got tight and the pressure was on, she found a way to close out games. That's not luck. That's mental toughness and experience. After the match, Coco addressed her serving struggles directly. She said it was just first set jitters, that both players were struggling on one side of the court because of sun position, and that once she got through the first game with 3 double faults, it was smooth sailing from there. And she was right. She only had 1 double fault in the second set. That level of self-awareness and in-match adjustment is what elite players do. They recognize problems, make corrections, and execute. Coco did exactly that, and the result was a comfortable straight sets win that improved her first-round record at Grand Slams to 23-4. 23 wins and 4 losses in first-round Grand Slam matches. Let that sink in. She's played 27 first-round matches at majors and won 23 of them. That's an 85% win rate specifically in opening rounds, which is where upsets happen and where young players typically stumble. But Coco doesn't stumble in first rounds. In fact, she's now won 22 consecutive Grand Slam matches against opponents ranked outside the top 50. Her last loss to someone ranked that low at a major? Sofia Kenin at Wimbledon 3 years ago when Kenin was ranked 128th. Since then, 22 straight wins. And if you expand the time frame slightly, Coco is 35-1 against players ranked outside the top 50 at Grand Slams since back-to-back early exits to Sloane Stephens at the 2021 US Open and Wang Qiang at the 2022 Australian Open. So if you're a lower-ranked player hoping to pull an upset against Coco Gauff in the early rounds of a major, the historical data says good luck. You're going to need it. Because she doesn't lose to players she's supposed to beat. Not anymore. This is a massive development in her game that doesn't get talked about enough. Early in her career, Coco had a tendency to lose matches she should have won. Random early round exits to players who shouldn't have been competitive with her skill level. That was a legitimate criticism, and it was something she needed to fix if she was going to reach her potential. And she fixed it. Completely. The numbers prove it. She's now one of the most reliable players on tour when it comes to taking care of business against lower-ranked opposition. That's not a small thing. That's the difference between being a talented player who underachieves and being a champion who consistently performs. With this win, Coco also became the youngest player to reach 250 career WTA match wins since Caroline Wozniacki did it in 2011. Again, elite company. Wozniacki was a former world number 1 and won a Grand Slam. The fact that Coco is hitting the same milestones at the same age suggests she's on a similar or even better trajectory. But here's where it gets interesting. After her win, Coco was asked what she focuses on to be fully prepared for a first-round match. Her answer was revealing. She said she's lost a couple of first rounds before, but she's always been able to pick it up. She tries not to put too much pressure on herself in the first round because, at this point, she just wants to win the tournament. Think about that mindset. She's not satisfied with just advancing. She's not celebrating a first-round win like it's an accomplishment. She's treating it as an expected baseline that gets her one step closer to the only thing that actually matters: winning the title. The interviewer pressed her on why she described her satisfaction level as just okay, and Coco doubled down. She said winning the tournament is the only satisfying result. Everything else is just progress toward that goal. She can be proud of herself throughout the tournament, but she won't be satisfied unless she wins. That's champion mentality. That's the mindset of someone who expects to win Grand Slams, not someone hoping to make a decent run. And it's a significant shift from where Coco was even 2 years ago, when just reaching semifinals felt like a major achievement. Now, semifinals aren't enough. Quarterfinals definitely aren't enough. Coco is operating with the expectation that she should be competing for titles at every major she enters. And based on her track record and the company she's keeping statistically, that's not arrogance, that's reality. Her best result at the Australian Open was reaching the semifinals in 2024. Last year, she lost to Paula Badosa in the quarterfinals. So she hasn't won this tournament yet, and the path forward won't be easy. But the fact that she's already thinking in terms of winning is the only satisfying result tells you where her head is at. She's not here to accumulate good runs and impressive stats. She's here to win championships. And when you look at the historical comparisons, Chris Evert, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, those are players who won multiple Grand Slams and dominated eras. That's the standard Coco is measuring herself against. The comparison to the Williams sisters is particularly apt because Coco's game has elements of both. She has Venus's athleticism and movement. She has Serena's power and mental toughness. And she's developed a consistency that both sisters had to grow into over time. But here's what's scary. Coco is doing this at 20 years old. Serena didn't win her first Grand Slam until she was 17 at the 1999 US Open. But her dominance didn't really kick in until her early 20s. Venus won Wimbledon at 20 in 2000, so she's actually on a similar timeline to where Coco is now. Coco won the US Open in 2023 at age 19. If she wins the Australian Open this year at 20, that puts her on pace with or ahead of where the Williams sisters were at the same age. That's not a comparison people are making lightly. That's based on actual results and actual timelines. The stat about her being in the top 5 American women in win rate through 100 Grand Slam matches is particularly striking because it accounts for era differences. Chris Evert played in a different time with different competition. The Williams sisters dominated an era but also faced different challenges. Coco is doing this in the modern era with deeper competition and more parity on tour. The fact that she's still tracking at 75% through 100 matches despite the increased competitiveness of women's tennis is remarkable. It suggests that if anything, her accomplishments are more impressive relative to her competition than some of the names above her on that list. And let's address the elephant in the room. Coco's serving struggles in this match. 6 double faults in the first set, 27% second serve points won. Those are bad numbers. Against a better opponent, that could have been a problem. But against Rakimova, ranked 93rd in the world, Coco had enough margin for error to work through it. That's another sign of where she is in her development. She can have an off day serving and still win comfortably because the rest of her game is so strong. Her return game, movement, and court coverage allow her to compensate for weaknesses in other areas. That's what complete players do. But serving is still an area where Coco needs improvement. It's been inconsistent throughout her career, and in tight matches against top 10 opponents, those double faults become costly. The good news is she's aware of it and actively working on it. The second set improvement shows she can make adjustments mid-match. Her next opponent is Olga Danilovic, who just knocked out Venus Williams. That's a tougher test than Rakimova, but still someone Coco should beat if she plays her game. And based on her 22-match winning streak against players outside the top 50 at majors, betting against Coco in that matchup would be statistically foolish. The real test will come if she makes the second week and starts facing top 10 opponents. That's where Grand Slams are won or lost. Can she beat Sabalenka? Can she beat Świątek? Can she handle the pressure of being a favorite rather than an underdog? Those are the questions that will determine whether this Australian Open becomes another good run or an actual title. But the foundation is there. The stats prove it. The comparisons to all-time greats are justified. And Coco's own expectations have shifted from hoping to compete to expecting to win. One final stat that puts this all in perspective. Coco Gauff has already won 75 Grand Slam matches at age 20. Some players never win 75 Grand Slam matches in their entire careers. She's done it before most players even reach their prime. Coco Gauff just joined Chris Evert and the Williams sisters in one of the most exclusive statistical clubs in tennis history. She's 20 years old with a 75% Grand Slam win rate and expectations to win titles, not just compete. If you want more analysis on Coco's Australian Open run and whether she can actually win this thing, smash that like button and subscribe for championship-level tennis coverage.